With Swansea UFO Network, some of you might have seen us here last year, where I took us through some of the cases over the years in South Wales. So, as a group, we just look at Welsh cases, just to keep it manageable, so we can go off and interview witnesses. We're just down the road, basically. Tonight's talk, you might have seen some of the slides here last year, because I did touch on a couple of the sightings. But tonight we're going to elaborate on it, and we've got videos of witness interviews to show you, which will be slotted in as we go through. But basically we're talking about the events of the evening of the 19th of January 1983. A long time ago, but a lot of the witnesses are still alive. Because some at the time were just children, but they can still remember it. Like, I'm sure you've interviewed witnesses, Tony, who were sometimes with sightings or experiences from many, many years ago, but it's etched in their memory because it had such a profound effect on them. Well, that's exactly the case here. Right, Swansea UFO Network. We're based in Swansea, as the name applies. And this is a picture of us on top of a hill known as Kilvey Hill, which is just above the city centre of Swansea. And Kilvey Hill figures a couple of times in the stories I'm about to tell you tonight. That's a view looking across Swansea Bay. And just to get your bearings with the map that I've drawn, Swansea Bay is a nice curved bay, 5 miles long, ending at Mamble's Head, where there's 2 little islands. And this is the curve of Swansea Bay here. So Kilvey, it's difficult doing this with a microphone. So Kilvey Hill is basically there, okay? So that's about 5 miles from there on the bay to that. So you get a bit of the scale. And I've squashed the rest of the old county of Glamorgan in just to get Cardiff in. Because even though a lot of the action from that night happened in this area, there were a few other sightings from other parts of South Wales, so I've had to squeeze it in just so we can get a larger area, otherwise Swansea will be tiny and I won't be able to get everything in. Okay, next slide please, Mike. This is a better view of Swansea Bay, so you can get, I think it's Britain's only city by the sea, not including, well, England and Wales anyway, except for Scotland. I was thinking the other day, but I was going around the coast of my head, all the cities, all the towns in England are on the coast, but I think they're all towns, there aren't any cities. So Swansea is the only city by the sea. Okay, next slide. This Kilvey Hill, very, very prominent landmark right next to the city centre. And that's Swansea Marina, which is the old South Dock. They used to export coal from there many years ago. And Swansea's at the southern end of the Swansea Valley, where the River Tower flows down into Swansea Bay. And you can see on top of Kilvey Hill there's a radio mast. That figures a couple of times in the sightings that we're going to look at soon. Next one. Just showing these to you just so you can get a feel of the locality, so you can get the geography in your head. This is 3 of us. The main bodies in Sufon. This is myself on the left when I was about twice this size. The one in the middle is Steve Drewson, and the one on the left is Mike. On the right is Mike. Okay. Now, this photograph was taken from it was in a press article that we often put out, because I think it's important to get out to the general public to let them know that we're here, and it encourages people to come forward. And one of the witnesses we're going to look at shortly later, a guy called Simon Matthews, saw an article in the local paper about the Night of the Triangles, and he nearly choked on his breakfast. And he said to his wife, "Oh my God, there's my sighting," that he had when he was 10, 12 years old. And he said they've even got a name for it, Night of the Triangles. We coined the name Night of the Triangles to give it a sort of identity, because it was a mass sighting and dozens and dozens of people saw it just in the Swansea area, if not hundreds that we don't know of yet. So, okay, next one. That's a better map of South Wales than the one I just drew. You can see the shape The Cardiff there on the right is my pointer.
I've got a tent though.
Sorry?
I've got a tent.
Yeah, I did it out of memory. This doesn't stay out. Okay, you've got Cardiff there. There's Swansea. You can see Swansea Bay, the curve, and that's the Gower Peninsula. And you've got Port Talbot, Porthcawl, little town called Llantwit Major, just there. And then you've got Cardiff. And then Merthyr Tydfil's up there. Mention those places again in a minute. Next one. This is an old map of Swansea, and you can see Kilvey Hill is here. There's the city centre, and then you've got the bay. And there's the South Dock Marina I mentioned earlier, that's going to factor soon. Swansea Valley goes up there, and then you've got Neath. Yeah, remember Neath, because Simon Matthews, the witness I just said about nearly choked on his breakfast, he was actually in this locality here, in his sighting. Okay. Next one. So another view of Kilvey Hill. Right, the first, on the evening really kicks off with the first sighting. He was reported in the local paper as being 5:15, but we've actually interviewed the witness, and she says it was actually 5:45. So that's when it really kicked off with the first witness that we've managed to track down. It was a lady called Leanne Gaskins, and she was about 15 years old, and she was living in Skewin. Can you go back one? She was living in a place called Skewin, which is on the edge of Neath, and this is the locality just there. She was looking at she'd just come home from school, and she was looking out to the kitchen window, which was on the first floor because the house is built on the side of a hill. So the kitchen was on the first floor, looking south. And basically what she said she saw some lights over Kilvey Hill. There. So to the right hand side, because she was looking south. And she said these lights were sort of just sitting over the radio mast on top of the hill. And then all of a sudden they sort of jumped to the right, to an area roughly over the city centre. You can see the city centre just to the right of the hill. Sorry, to the left of the hill. It's her right. They stayed there for a while, and then they jumped back to Kilvey Hill. And then all of a sudden, the speed was phenomenal. It was like that. They suddenly jumped about 5 miles to the east to an area just about a mile from her. Up there, so we jumped from there to there. And she said it was an absolutely huge object covered in lights. And it was hovering over the oil refinery that was there in those days, the BP Llandasi oil refinery. Can you have the next shot? And the next one again. Right, where she was in those houses at the left, at the top of the picture. So that's Skewin. So she was roughly in that area, looking south at the oil refinery. And she said it was absolutely huge. It absolutely covered the area of the oil refinery. Can you have the next shot? It gives you an idea of the size. It's a huge site. So she was more or less to the right of this picture, looking that way. And she said it was huge. It was absolutely huge. If I can read it a little bit. I'll put my glasses on now to say I was getting old. Yeah, we actually interviewed her, and she gave us a lot more information that wasn't what was in the local paper. Yeah, she was hanging out the window, and she told her mother to come, and the father and I think her 2 sisters came as well to look out the window, and there were 5 of them looking out the window. She said it was triangular with lights all over it, pulsing randomly in different colours. She could see the body of the craft due to it being night time and its distance away from her. Sorry, she couldn't see the body due to night time, she just saw the lights on it. But the lights suggested the shape. It was very big and seemed to cover the whole refinery. Her parents, Martin and Margaret, and sister Kerry then came for a look. her father worked at the refinery and wondered if he should tell someone. Because out of the row of houses that they were living, of 5 houses, eight men actually worked at the refinery, because it was a big employer in the area. So Leanne was hanging out the window at this point, and the object stayed in position over the refinery for about 5 minutes. And then it moved up slowly a little, it just moved up slightly, and then shot up vertically out of sight in a blink. Just gone, straight up. And throughout the entire sighting, which lasted 12 to 15 minutes, no sound was noticed, apart from the drone of the nearby A48 dual carriageway. So, that was the first witness account that we looked at. So that was about 5:45.
Your marker on the board.
Of course, that's why I got it. So that was large triangle seen going that way. .45, okay. As we go through, now, this is going to be covered in arrows and triangles and stuff, okay? Okay, next shot. Right, I mentioned Simon Matthews. Well, Simon was living in, as I said, Leith. He was about 2 or 3 miles further east than what the last witness was. And we tracked Simon down. Well, Simon actually contacted us after he saw us in the paper. And we went up to video interview him. And in the background, you'll see the house that he lived in at the time was that bungalow just the other side of the hedge behind me there. And his viewpoint of it was straight down the valley, and the horizon, that sort of lump in the middle, that's Kilvey Hill, and that's where the oil refinery used to be. It's long gone now. Okay. Now, I'll give you a little bit of background. No. So I'll replay the video and let Simon explain. This is the Evening Post article from the following day that he can remember seeing. This is a nice reconstruction that Simon actually did himself of his view. He actually saw 2 sets of 3 red lights over the oil refinery. It's a bit different to what Leanne Gaskin saw, which he said it was a huge object covered in lights of all different colours. He said he actually saw 2 triangle formations. I believe they were blinking on and off, and he did a nice sort of reconstructed video of it as well. Next one, I think it's the video. Oh, yeah. So that's what we can do.
Hang on. Playing the volume.
I've just started again to get started.
Can you get up on the amp, Sean? While they try and sort that out, if anybody wants to open a window near them, by all means do so, because it's pretty hot in here at the moment.
It's in there, it's in there. I can't get any louder. Oh, last one, and then we can deal with the microphone, perhaps get all the microphones so you can hear.
Hey, shut down.
There's a certain way you can wipe there.
Perhaps that one down open.
No. Do we need the speaker?
Samsung. Digital audio, is that yours?
Computers, don't you just love it?
It's Can't feel grown.
Yeah.
Trying to get power saver mode is close the
Samsung.
volume down.
This is the Samsung. Ah, nice.
What was that in the road?
Oh. Hang on, start again.
And I showed that story to my mother, and she couldn't believe it.
Right.
Sure. Is the battery plugged in? She looks like it's about 3 minutes.
Yeah, hope your laptop's going to go off in there.
I thought I was plugged in.
There you go, it's plugged in now.
Yeah, no, it's a dog. It's plugged in.
Connection.
It's if I wiggle that, it comes up with a. Right. This will work now. Back to it.
As I say, I was 12 at the time, I'm 47 now. At the time I was living in 31 Darby Road, which is this house here on the corner. And at the time I lived there was no hedge row around the house, it was just the pavement straight onto the grass. I was out playing on my BMX, right on the corner there, right by the pavement on my BMX. And it was already gone dark, it was pitch dark, even though it was early evening, but because it was January, it was dark. I rode my bike over towards the corner of the street here, between Daphne Close and Daphne Road. And BP Clondassie Oil Refineries on the top of the hill there, at the top of the A465. And I could see two triangular craft hovering above the works. The two triangular craft were consisted of 6 red lights in total, so there's 3 red lights on each triangular craft. On each of the corners of the triangle. I just put my glasses up, and the craft was sort of moving slowly over the works, and sort of giving it that sort of motion, almost as though they were scanning the area below them. And I watched it, I was startled. I immediately knew something strange was happening. I knew I was witnessing something amazing, didn't know what it was. But I knew there was something strange going on. I watched it for a short while, and then I ran into my house around the back door into the kitchen, and I shouted, Mum, come and look at this with me, there's UFOs above BP. And she wouldn't come out, she was cleaning or doing some of the housework like she was always doing, and she wouldn't come with me, and I begged her to come out, but she wouldn't come out. But anyway, I came back out and I watched them for a bit. I can't remember what happened then, but I skipped forward a day, and then the next day on the front page of the Evening Post was this story, 100 spot mystery lights over city. And I showed that story to my mother, and she couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe the story, and she regretted so much not coming out to see the lights with me, to see the craft with me. So that's pretty much the story, really.
You came up here last week and you took a photograph, and you've made a mock-up.
No, I actually took video. I set my tripod up there, took a video of the same
And
view.
you made a CGI reconstruction of it.
Yeah.
And here it is. It's quite a few miles away, but
Yeah.
it's another perspective of...
Yeah. How many miles would you say that is, you know? It's about 2 point something miles.
Yeah, it's about 2 to 3 miles, right?
Yeah.
2 or 3 miles.
It shows how large they must have been, because I could clearly see them. I could clearly see
Yeah,
them.
well, you were the first witness that we tracked down outside Swansea. Apart from
It's incredible.
one in Skewing, which is sort of borderline.
It's incredible, because look how much sky you can see.
Okay. So, unfortunately, Simon can't remember the exact time of his sighting. It could have been after the huge object that was seen by Leanne Gaskins, because the description is so different. You know. So it could have been afterwards, but we don't know where, but it's important to have it anyway. Right, just read a couple of others out, so I'll just put his on the... two triangles. There. Right, so that was, well, with Leanne's one, it was in the period between 5:45 and 6 o'clock. In the period between 5:30 and 5:45, for a period of 10 minutes. Can we have the next shot? I think it's Mumbles. Yeah. There's Swansea Bay again, and there's Mumbles Head at the end. We've got two little islands with a lighthouse, it's Mumbles Head. An observer watched with the naked eye and through binoculars two very bright lights about the length of a Boeing 747 apart. No shape was discernible. The lights were over the lifeguard station at Mumbles. Can I have the next shot? It shows the location there. And the lifeboat station, well, Mike's doing it now.
Roughly
It's
around
just
there.
on that little headland there.
There it is.
Swansea Bay's on the right of the picture. The lights were over the lifeboat's lifeguard station and at 2,000 feet maximum altitude, 1 mile away from the observer. Its movements were described as being steady and changing. That's an MOD report, so we don't know who the witness is because obviously they redact huge chunks of that just to protect people's identity. And between 5:45 and 6:45, again there's a bit of a large window of time there, over Kilvey Hill. Give the next shot. An observer located outdoors on Pendragethin Road, which is in the north of Swansea, so to the left of that picture. Observed an object for 5 to 10 minutes moving slowly around the TV mast. It was described as being one object split into two parts, 3 very bright flashing white lights at front and 3 at the back. Massive in size, oblong in shape. No sound or smell. Again, because it's at night time, it's difficult to tell the shape of it, but just judging by the lights, they assume it's oblong. Again, that was an MOD find, so we don't know who it was, so I'll just plot those on the map. Now, there is a chance that...
Don't forget the...
Yeah, I'll do that now. There is a chance that some of these objects seen are the same object viewed by different people at the same time. So it's important to remember that. Because we haven't got the exact time. And so that's the one we covered. What was the one before?
Lifeguard.
Oh yeah, lifeguard, yeah.
Coast Guard.
That's between 5:30 to 5:45. So the one in Mumbles was actually slightly before Leanne Gaskin saw that one shot over to the oil refinery. Okay, what's the next slide? Right, next one at 5:50. So this is at the same time as Leanne Gaskins was looking at it from her kitchen window in Skewin. In Morriston, over a period of 6 minutes, an observer located on Heel Talacopper, which is that road there. Kilvey Hill's here, so you can get your bearings. So somebody up there at 10 to 6 reported seeing 2 objects travelling at a steady rate west to east from the DVLC, as it was then, the DVLA now in Morriston. That's where you could send your driving licences off. Well, that's Morriston from the top towards Kilvey Hill. So it was travelling from Morriston down to there, and the observer was there. That was at 10 to 6. If you remember, Leanne Gaskins at 5:45 was watching an object over Kilvey Hill and then fly that way. This witness saw it, or saw 2 objects travelling at a steady rate from Morriston down to Kilvey Hill. One object was a long elongated shape with 2 pulsating white lights at the front and 2 yellowish steady lights on the rear. The second object was small and triangular with steady white lights. No sound or smell was associated with the sighting. Now, that corresponds actually to the next set of witnesses who were 2 CID officers. One was a detective sergeant, one was a detective inspector. This is one of the officers, I don't know if he was the inspector or the sergeant actually. This is Mike Troke, that's our colleague Steve Drewson. We visited Mike Troke, gentleman on the left, now retired obviously, and he gave us a full story of what was happening. Can you go back one shot to that map again? Now, just up there, where that last observer was, the two CID officers were actually calling on a house. There'd been a spate of burglaries in the area, and they were walking up. It's a very hilly area. They were walking up the road, up the steps to the house, and one of them turned to see these lights coming across the valley from west to east. And I think the next shot, it shows a drawing. He did a drawing of what he saw. Can we show the next one? That's him doing the drawing. Well, that's the drawing. This is one of the objects that he saw. Elongated shape, with lights around the edge, with two triangular lights at the back. The lights on the sides, he said, were blue, flashing, and two blue triangles at the back. As they were looking at it, he was coming towards them, so that's this direction. Oh, go back to the map again. He was going across the valley, going across that way, and then when they got to the point where they suddenly turned to their left and headed south. They said that it came on the radio in the car that many people were phoning in at the time to say that they were seeing it also. And when they got back to the police station 2 hours later, they said that RAF Uxbridge had phoned, and with set questions, and they had to answer an interview on the telephone separately. Going back to the object again, he said it turned slowly, which then showed the rectangle shape. And the two blue triangles were flashing. And there was no sound. They were also told that a football game had been stopped while everybody looked up as they went over Swansea Bay. We haven't actually found out what football team that was yet. The other police officer, Gethin James, we tracked him down and we interviewed him, and he more or less follows Mike's testimony, but there were some slight variations which you often get between witnesses, also due to the fact that it was so long ago. Mike said that they went towards Swansea, turned left before the end of the sighting, which is what Mike said. And he also said that a girl in the control room said a report from Place, which is near Morriston, had come in, and she was mocking it, she was making fun of it. But then they radioed in to say that they had seen it too. Okay. Okay, next one, Mike. Again, that shows the area. Again, don't need that one now, do we?
No.
Next.
Yeah, next. Oh, I'm going to put that one in. It's an oblong shape, isn't it? Yeah, they can't remember exact what time, but it was. But the time, it was an early evening, that's all they can say. That's Port Talbot, that's the steelworks in Port Talbot. Excuse me while I find the right page again, let's try. 6:05, so we're moving on a bit in time now. Witness reported a silver-coloured saucer-shaped object showing 4 or 5 lights flashing in rotation, seen motionless in the sky over the steelworks. A few minutes later, it was joined by a second UFO, and the two of them moved off towards Swansea. So that's here. John, it doesn't actually say the shape of the second UFO, but I'll just put two. Moved off towards Swansea, 6:05. Okay, next one. Now right, this is a good one, this is. I get really keen on these. This is actually our first interview on site when we first started a few years ago. And I managed to track this guy down even though his surname's Jones. I can imagine in Swansea there's a lot of Jones. He's not the witness, his father was the witness. His father was a driving instructor, a gentleman by the name of Porthcawl Jones. I'm trying to say that after a few pints. Now Phil Jones, the son, he said that his father always maintained the story for years and years and years, but he never made it public. And Phil wanted to make it public, but he honoured his father's wishes, and he waited until his father had passed away in 2012 before putting it online. And I think in 2013 he wrote a little account up for the website ukufo.co.uk. I don't know for that one. A lot of public go on that to put their stories in. Well, I found that. I found the story, and it just said Phil Jones works for a local authority. So how did I find him? Oh yeah, I phoned up the council and I said, can I speak to Phil Jones please? And he said which one? There's about 10 of them. I said, I'm not sure. I think he's a housing officer, I know that. So they put me through to Phil Jones first time. Amazing. And then we arranged to meet up, and I won't say any more. Let Phil say it in his own words. Oh, by the way, this is in Long Oaks Avenue in a place called the Uplands, which is here. This is at 6:15. Okay. That's the street. That's the street we're now, anyway. Yeah. You got sound?
Driving lesson. As he got down to his car here, he noticed attention was drawn to the roofs of the two houses next door but one, from which he saw a large black craft. It was about the sea. For sure. Well, as I say, my father alighted the property. He was going on to a driving lesson. As he got down to his car here, he noticed attention was drawn to the roofs of the two houses next door but one, from which he saw a large black craft. It was about he described it as being about the size of a family saloon car, triangular in shape. It was blacker than the night sky, and then on the three corners of this craft was a small pole, and then at the bottom of that pole was a very bright, small but very bright white light. The vehicle, or the craft, came between the two houses here. It then descended below the height of the house at a walking pace. It crossed the road and then ascended back up on several phases. It came up on 2 or 3 phases and just about managed to miss the roof of the house opposite.
Which roof was it?
Number 15.
15.
That's right, that one there next to the scaffolding.
Yeah. The black roof.
Yeah,
oh, right.
yeah. He said it was that close. He was waiting for the impact to occur. He really did think it was going to crash.
Was there any sound?
It made a sound. It was a very low type sound.
Chugging.
Chugging sound. It was going at what he described as a slow walking pace, and was so narrow, or indeed so low, it had no height to it as such. He said although it was intelligently controlled, and certainly it was under control, if there was any entity, anything in there, it would have had to have been laying prostrate, and it would have certainly probably not a human being. It was that thin.
So, you say it was about, what size was it?
About the size of a family saloon car.
Size of a family saloon car?
A regular family car.
When you say it was a triangle shape, what was it, like a equilateral triangle, or was it?
Yes, it was, yeah. As I say, several people were reported as having seen these aircraft in the night sky on that particular night in question, but this is the closest. That
This is one I've heard that it is the lowest that I've heard about. So you can imagine it coming over the roof there.
Sure.
So have a quick stand up again.
In this direction, it descended. It actually came down below the height of the roof. How long would it take? 5-6 seconds to cross the road at a walking pace.
Yeah.
And then, as I say, it then ascended again, just about cleared that roof, literally by an inch or two. And then my father, having run up here, between the gap in the two houses, he noticed it descending again and making its way down there.
Well, when it actually left, did it leave at velocity or did it just disappear?
Well, my father lost sight of it between these houses. It didn't speed up. The speed was constant. It was a constant, what he described as a slow to medium walking pace. And that's how it ascended over that roof. He ran over here, saw between the two houses the gap there. He managed to watch it descend back down below the house level again and head off in that direction towards the Swansea Bay. And as I say, he said that as far as he was concerned, the speed was continually, it was the same speed.
I wonder if there was any sound coming from that thing.
Well, the only sound that he could hear was a very low, deep, and I'll do it for you, it was a sort of a chook, 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 chook sound.
Did you hear it first time? Okay. Oh, we're done.
Where are we? Right there. 30. Okay, the second one.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as I say, my father alighted the property. He was going on to a driving lesson.
Right, let's get it on. Right, there we go. Back on it.
Well done.
Bill? I think so, thanks.
Okay, that was all from Jones, or Phil Jones, talking about his dad's amazing sighting. He was so close to it, you could actually hear sound from it. Can you go back just one shot? That was only one again. Right. Yeah, that's a photograph that we took one night, just to give a feel of what Porthcawl Jones, what the locality was like. You know, obviously it was at night, and he actually saw it going from left to right, going across the road there. And he said he dipped down into the road at a walking pace, and he thought it was going to hit the house across the road, but then it climbed again and went over the. So it was literally hugging the land, wasn't it? Okay. Moving on. Now the next street down the next two streets down from Long Oaks Avenue, we've got Beechwood Road. And this lady's called Natalie Bowden, and she was a young teenager, still in school, living in this house at the time, and she had an amazing story to tell. Again, she didn't know the exact time, but bearing in mind it was just two streets down from the last sighting, we obviously got to link the two together, even though what she saw wasn't the size of a family saloon. It was actually much bigger. In fact, it was so big she couldn't see the sides. She just can remember what she described as a stadium of lights, like a football stadium shape, of pastel coloured panels underneath an object, which was dark. She couldn't see the edges of it. And it was hovering stationary over the house. And I'm not going to tell you anymore. I'll let Natalie explain in her own words again. Well, this is her viewpoint from the front door actually. This is the house across the road. And this object filled the whole sky. This is a drawing she did of it. That's the house across. And this stadium of lights that she described was just above the rooftops. And there were other people in the street as well looking up at it. We'll come back to that bit later. We can play the video.
one record. This is not to convince anyone. This is, you know, my story for me. I don't need to convince anyone, okay? So, in this house, I was 13. I was sitting in the back room, which is next to the kitchen in the annex. And one evening, I was sitting with my dog watching TV, and I just had an urge to get up and go out, and don't know why. But come through the house, the dog doesn't follow me. Through the camera?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's talk to me on the call.
Okay. So I came out from the back room, just came out to the front and stood on this step right here. And in the sky, 30 feet above that house over there, is a massive UFO. The central part of it is, as I said before, it's a stadium shape, but the windows are like this size, like, you know, but there's a lot of lights, and I thought the lights were creams and ochres and pinks and all soft kind of colours, and they were all different. You know, I thought it was trying to say something to me in my in my head, but I was also standing here thinking, well, what's it doing there? I didn't see the circumference of it because it was immense. You know, it was a black sky. All I was focusing on was the lights underneath. So I'm looking at it, wondering why it's there. For 5 minutes, I'm standing here wondering whether it needs the water in the park. You know, trying to make sense of what I'm seeing and logically explain it in my own head. So I couldn't make any sense of it. And then I thought, people think I'm going to be a nutter, so I better go. So I started screaming into the house to call my brother, my sister and my stepfather. So they came out, and because I was causing so much commotion, the neighbours in the street had come out. So they said 2 across there, 2 up here, 1 across there. So basically in the end there was about 9, 10 of us looking at this thing. The other thing is that it wasn't cold anymore. The sound in the street, it felt like a pin could have dropped. You know, you could hear a pin drop. It was that kind of, I don't know, just stillness, complete stillness. No sound out of this thing that's there. But when my stepfather and my sister finally come out, they stand on where you two are, and they're looking at it, and I'm like, can you believe it? You know, it's a UFO. You know, and he's like, wow, yeah, UFO. But you know, no excitement or interest at all. Just kind of like a dull, oh yeah, UFO. Up at this point, my stepfather and my sister didn't get along. I'm doing this to set the scene because it's not normal what they did next. He walked in, and I said, what are you doing? And he's like, I've seen enough. So he steps down, mechanically but fluidly, follows, and my sister does exactly the same. And I'm like, Ashley, what are you doing? She didn't even ask me, she just followed him in, which is not normal. Like I say, she would never ever, just like stubbornness. So they went in, and I'm like, well, I'm watching it go, you know, so I'm standing there. So it's been 5 minutes I was out on my own. I called them out, they've been out there for 5 minutes, they've gone in. And I'm just standing there and I'm just watching it, and I'm, you know, kind of looking at the lights, wondering, you know, just asking it questions mentally, you know, telepathically, if I was sending it, like, what's going on, why are you there, what are you doing, you know, take me away. I even asked it to give me another perspective, a board bit to come on into. As a kid, you're just joking around, I was just looking for something and some logic and some sense. So after another 5, maybe 10 minutes, I was just really I was just looking at it, and then all of a sudden it wasn't there. As clear as I'm looking at you two. I didn't see you move, but you're just not there anymore, it's just blank space. I could see the stars, it had gone cold, it was windier, you know, that stillness. And there was nobody on the street but me. I looked across all the houses, there was no one there. But what I saw was the central bit. Like I said, I couldn't see the circumference of it, but I know that my sister, we discussed it when we went back in. I went back in kind of really just gutted and upset and wound up. But you know, I didn't see it go. That's where I was there. I just wanted to see it move. And so I went in, and my stepfather, being the joker he was, said, did you see your UFO go? And I was like, your UFO? And I'm like, no. And, you know, I just couldn't make any sense out of it. And my sister, you know, said that we didn't discuss it. That's the weird thing about all this, is that we didn't discuss it with the neighbours ever again. Nothing was discussed the next day. No one talked. The next morning, or the next, you know, my stepfather got the newspaper, the Evening Post, and I just opened it on a page, went, there's a UFO, and it said satellite out of orbit in big letters, I think. So there's a little story there. Big letters, satellite out of orbit, or satellite, I think it said. And I can't, that's what I remember, just big blobs saying satellite. And I was like, yeah, is it? You know. But, you know.
Can we go back one slide, please? Now, Natalie also said that a couple of days later she was having a shower and she was washing her hair and she could feel something in her hair. And it was a bald patch, and the skin was raised. And she still has it now. It's still bald. She showed us it. It's a photograph I took. It's still raised. I actually touched it. It comes up above the scalp. And obviously from her description of what happened, it's obvious that it's some sort of missing time, which she can't remember what happened. Like 1 minute it was all still and quiet and not cold, even though it was a January evening. And then all of a sudden it wasn't there anymore. And the people in the street who had been watching it weren't there anymore. And it was cold and there was a bit of a breeze that come back up. So it's as if time had altered and she didn't know what happened. And another important part of what she said was that her stepfather was sort of, a bit blasé about it, and her sister just followed him in, like automatically, like an automaton walking in. As if you hear cases where people are switched off, where the abductee is aware of what's happening, but the rest of the family is sort of switched off. So I think that could be what happened there. So maybe we'll get in touch with Natalie one day and have hypnotic regression, see what comes out, which would be pretty cool. But again, it's important to remember that this is only 2 streets down from where the driving instructor saw this car-sized triangle going across the road, in the same direction where her house is, roughly. So I'll just stick out on the map. Even though we're not sure it was a triangle, I'll just put the triangle. Okay, that's 2 close together, and lost track now. What's the next one? We move across. I think it's Gossainnon, right? Yeah. Now this case is 6:15. The time is written in stone. The witnesses remember it as 6:15. This is happening at exactly the same time as the driving instructor, Alpine Jones, saw the small object going across the road. Okay, but this is something like 3 or 4 miles to the north, in a place called Gossainnon, which is on the outskirts of Swansea, in that sort of area. Okay, and this is Brighton Road in Gossainnon. This is looking north. The building on the left, in the next shot, is the Gossainnon and District Working Men's Club. Now the witness, we're talking about 3 witnesses here, 3 men, who were waiting outside the club to go in to play snooker. 2 brothers called Milan and Byron Baliak, and another fellow called Roger Williams. Unfortunately, Roger Williams is deceased, but we tracked down Milan and Byron, and again, we'll let them tell you in their own words. That's Milan on the left, Byron on the right.
Yeah, night, it was 6:15, we were standing here, and one witness, so Roger Williams, just looked across the road here, and he screamed out, what's that? And as we looked across here towards the house there was a row of white, bluey lights, very small, and as it grew over the top of the house, the whole thing tilted. In between these houses here, we could see a triangle shape, a huge triangle shape. But the only lights we could see then was the shape of the triangle, one at the front and one each side of the other side of the triangle with a red light, not in the centre, towards the front. This thing was floating in this direction, very slow. You could walk past it, and we immediately ran over to this side of the road here, and we were at the end of it. And when the stars was just moving so slow, and went in that direction. When one of the boys, when they went out of sight completely, we lost it for a while till they went out of sight. And when my brother and his mate went in, they phoned Swansea Sound. But when they went in there was 2 smaller triangles in this street here, going up and down, just past each other, like this, but much smaller.
That's why you were inside
I was
Swansea Sound.
I was here. These 2 went into Swansea to phone, and I was still out here. I stayed here, and out of nowhere, this street here, there were two smaller triangles up and down each other like that, so they completely went out of sight. No sound whatsoever. But this one here, this thing here was huge. These were smaller, it was really big, wasn't it? You know, right in front of us here. Yeah.
So initially then, the sighting was opposite the cloud?
Yeah, right here, right here.
What sort of height were they?
What do you say, right? Another length on top of that house there?
It's awkward to say, I just remember the size of it. Say, from here, I reckon one corner would be, yeah, half the height of this again. Yeah, I'm going to the point of that one, and then going over to sort of set there.
So you say you first came down from the north then?
That's what I saw. I didn't see any others, so it was a huge triangle, sort of from house to house, and in between to the gap. So it was that size.
And about 40, 50 foot up there?
Yeah, twice that. But I couldn't see anything in between it, apart from the lights. And that was it. I looked, but I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see anything in between it. But it was definitely totally different. I want to see that.
So you went in then to... My brother went in, and Roger went in. Right. And as he went in, I stayed here, as it was, you know, they'd gone now, but I stayed here just having a look around the skies. And then out the doorway, and we just started looking, and it was just there. And there was two small triangles going up this street here, down towards there.
Coming up parallel with the road?
Yeah, exactly in the straight line here. And slowly, back and forth, just in the street like that.
But the first one had gone with it.
The first one had gone completely. You know, these had gone into phone. And I just stayed, you know, on the roads and I looked at the skies. And then it was there, just looked that way.
Well, I would say you couldn't see anything between the first one.
I could see it was a black shape. It was a black triangle, I could see that. But you couldn't see...
There was definitely a craft there.
Oh yes, yeah. But you couldn't see how thick or deep or anything it was, you know what I mean? All you could see was those lights, and you could definitely see the really black shape of the triangle. You could see what shape it was. Yeah. But you couldn't see what depth it was, nothing like that, you know?
So it's, after it came down, you said it went off to the west, yeah? How did it turn? Did it manoeuvre, or did it suddenly...
When it came over this house here, yeah, it tilted here.
Yeah.
But then you could see the triangle, so you couldn't until it came over there, and it tilted. There was always that the white lights went off, and it straightened out in between, like Byron said, in between those houses there. And then you could see it was just a light on each point. You know.
What sort of time was it?
6:15.
6:15. Yeah.
It was dark.
6:15.
It was dark, but only dressed. You know what I mean? It was only dressed dark.
Yeah.
We
wasn't it? They still got ready for the pub over.
Yeah. So he saw three triangles, one huge one. I came from the north and headed east, and there were two smaller ones. Going in opposite directions, passing each other, and then they headed off to the east, also following the big one.
What did he do when he got the next day?
Oh yeah. He said following morning there was a lot of military activity, military planes flying around, helicopters, jets. He said he was really busy the following day, but this affected him so much. He did have an interest in UFOs. He had a bit of a collection of UFO books, and he took them all down in the garden, and he burnt a lot. He was so scared by it, you know. And he said he closed his curtains. In the bedroom he didn't open the curtains for ages. That's 6:15. So that was happening exactly the same time as Auckland Jones saw the small one going over the road. Okay. The next one, I think we've got time for one more before the break. This is to the east of that last one. This is a place called Forest Hall, which is part of Swansea. A bit out of shape here, but it's more or less this should be there. Actually, move your move that down a bit. This one is about a mile to the east of that last one. A place called Forest Hall, and a lad called Alan Crookham was in the street. He was only a young lad. We can find his notes. Hold on. Right. Yeah, it's called a place called Portmead, which is on an old 1920s built housing estate on the northwest of Swansea. And he was only 9 years old at the time, and he was on his way to his cousin's house in Portmead. Right. He'd only been out of the house for 2 minutes, and something made him turn around to see two triangle-shaped craft in the sky. He ran back home to tell his grandmother, who he lived with, and she saw it too. She saw them too. The objects went over Ravenhill Park and out of sight, so they were travelling west to east. So they could be two of the triangles that the three men in Gorsimon saw earlier. Unfortunately, we don't have the exact time, just as early evening, but okay. Go west to east. Right. He said everyone who lived in the area were looking. So a lot of people in this street saw it. They were travelling very low with white lights. No spotlights, and there was no flashing lights, just white lights. And he also told us of his uncle, who was leaving work at the time and had a shock as he dived out of he was walking along a road to the west of Swansea, sort of where would it be? So in this area here, roughly. And it was a road. It was like not a built-up road, so there was fast traffic, and there was no pavement. So he was walking along the edge of the road, and he dived out the way of something coming up behind him. He thought a lorry was coming up behind him, and he thought he was going to get run over, so he dived out the way into the hedge, and but there was nothing in the road. But then he saw a triangle shape in the sky. So it could have been galactic roadkill there. Yeah, the young boy, Alan, he said to his gran, "There's aliens." You can remember saying that. Okay. No sound. It was the size of a football pitch, which corresponds to the three men in Milan said the one over the house was massive like a football pitch. Okay, that's that one. Next one. Right, now we're moving up to Town Hill. It's getting a bit busy, this map is. Town Hill is in this area here. It's a large hill just to the north of the city centre, to the west of Kilvey Hill. But the difference between Town Hill and Kilvey Hill is that it's completely built over. And again, there's a 1920s housing estate built on the top, and this lad there called Mark Rayworth, he was a young boy at the time. He was out with his mother and his sister, I believe, or a friend, and I'll let Mark tell you in his own words. Okay, Mark. Mark, what can you tell us about that night?
I was going walk my friend home. I think it was roughly around 7. I did confirm that with my mother. Just over the gate there, started walking up, and my mother said, "Look at that, that's very good." And we looked up at the sky, and there was two huge triangles, biggest things I've ever seen. One in front of the other. The left one was in front of the right one, just travelling out to sea very slowly. No noise to them at all. I remember the big white rings underneath them and the lights going off all over them.
So you see there were two triangles?
Two, yeah.
What sort of height were they about?
I would say roughly, and this would be guessing now, but roughly around 500.
Yeah. How old were you at the time?
8.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to remember all the exact details.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't do your best then. So.
I just remember the size of them.
Yeah.
I'd say if they were down here, I would say they were bigger than 2 football pitches, easy.
How long were you watching them for? Were they sort of static? Or
We were here for about 20 minutes, we were here, roughly.
So they're moving quite slowly then, are they?
They hardly moved. By the time we left, they'd hardly moved. So
no sound whatsoever?
No sound at all, nothing at all. And it's my mother that said, let's go in the end, because we had to take my friend home. Because his mother was waiting. So,
what were the lighting conditions like? Were the street lights on?
The street lights were coming on. My mother confirmed to me that it was just getting dark. So I thought it was dark, but she confirmed it was just getting dark. It was. And,
were there any lights displayed on these objects?
Yeah, there was a white ring underneath, and there was, I remember, yellow lights, white lights going off all over it. So it's like as if they wanted to be seen.
What was the depth of the craft?
It was deep.
Because the way I imagine it, in my mind is
you mean the thickness of the craft? The thickness. Yeah. I wouldn't know the exact thickness, but it was quite deep. But looking at it, they looked shallow.
Yeah.
But they weren't, because they were just too big.
So you said they were heading south. Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's
so Lawrence, if you could turn and get a shot of the. You could get Mark pointing up to exactly where they were in the sky. Right. Just there. Okay. Yeah. So this is that. That's we're looking southeast there, so they'd be heading from left to right. Towards the beach, basically.
They were going straight up to the beach. Yeah.
Okay, so Mark said that they were heading south. Two very large ones out over the sea. Okay. Now they could have been the two seen by the last witness over the houses, but it's a bit of a discrepancy there because he said it was at 7 o'clock, but it had just gone dark. In January it gets dark a lot earlier than 7, so again he was only 8 years old, so it could have been. I'll put those there. Heading south. Okay. Right, time for one more? 9 o'clock, we're having a break, isn't it?
If you want, yeah.
Okay, the next one. It's great having the witnesses doing all the talking. Right, that's the sort of view over the bay from his location in Town Hill. Okay, quite high up, very high up. In fact, he's about 600 feet above sea level at the top of the hill. So when he said it was 500 feet up, he means 500 feet up from where he was. So altitude above sea level, you're talking about 1,000 feet for the two triangles. Okay, next one. Right, this is also in Town Hill. This is a fellow called Phil Gaskins, who told us that. Find it in a minute. Anyway, I can remember he'd just come home from work, and he said that he was out in the street and he saw two triangles over the bay, and his location was about a quarter of a mile from the last one, further east. And he said when he got to work the following day, there was lots of people were talking about it because other people living in the Neath area and Skewin had seen them as well. I can't find it now. Okay, next one. Right, June Thomas. This was in the Evening Post a couple of days later. It says on the bottom, UFO spotted. This is June Thomas's drawing of the two triangular objects. The angles of the triangle are where Mrs. Thomas saw flashing lights. Okay. Now June, I was trying for ages to track this lady. Longer again, the name's Thomas. It's like Phil Jones is a very common name in Wales. But she turned up at one of our meetings one night. And basically it's because I put something in the local paper advertising the meeting, and I reproduced her drawing that she did, and she recognised it in the paper. At the time she was working in a factory called Visco's. They used to make sponges, and the factory was in the marina area. If you remember that photograph from earlier showing the marina in the South Dock. She was down on the seafront basically. She was just leaving work. She was leaving work a little bit early because her husband or boyfriend was coming to pick her up to do the pictures. And she came up the gate of the factory, she turned and she saw three, not the two triangles reported in the paper, but three huge triangles to the south over the bay, over the water of the bay. And she only caught the glimpse of the one of them as it disappeared behind the roof of the factory, but then she could still see the other two. But she knew there were three there, and they were going to the south and turning left towards Porthcawl. So I'm conjecturing that these could be the two of the ones seen going over the bay that Mark Rayworth saw. So I'm going to put an arrow there. So they were heading down there and heading towards Porthcawl. Okay, what's the next one? Right, we're going out to Swansea now. We're heading down the coast to a place called Porthcawl. In Porthcawl, there was a gentleman by the name of John Owen, who was in the Porthcawl rugby club field, waiting for a game to start. He was from Baglan and he was supporting his local side, Baglan, playing Porthcawl. Let me just find the notes. So many of them, I get them mixed up. Now, this gentleman didn't want to be interviewed. I just took notes on the telephone. He said basically he was at Porthcawl rugby field, and he saw this object going over the field. Think of the next shot while I'm trying to find it. It's a shot I got of Google of the rugby field. He said it was 600 feet up over Porthcawl and travelling west to east. So he's down here, travelling west to east, so he's going that way. Okay. The next one, please, Matt. Right, now we're going further out the way again. Now this is Cardiff, and this next story comes from the Cardiff area of Cardiff. A lady called Carol. I'm going to read this. Carol Griffiths. She was travelling in a car through the area of Cardiff, which is just there, just on the river Taff. And she was in a car with her husband and a colleague from work who was a doctor with an Indian name of Dr. Nirabendra Deb, who practices in Caerphilly. And they were travelling along, just passing Cardiff Rowing Club. In the next shot, please, mate. And she said her husband stopped the car because they saw this object over. What's the press cut in there that I got there? She said, my husband stopped the car, we were so amazed, it looked like Concorde taking off, but it was stationary in the sky. I normally poo-poo things like that, but it had to be a UFO. Mrs. Griffiths' husband, John, who works with her at the Air Call Limited, the communications company in Cathedral Road, said he saw a similar object above Pentwyn earlier in the evening. The passenger in the car, the doctor I mentioned earlier, said the object seemed fixed in the sky. I don't know what it was I was looking at. I've never seen anything like it before. The first thing, but before that was, the police at the time said between 6 PM and 7 PM, the South Wales Police had received a number of calls reporting UFOs. The first sighting reported 4 flashing lights in the sky. Within minutes, 2 detectives reported watching a silent object, triangular in shape, drift west of Swansea, which we talked about earlier. They said it was flying at 1,000 feet with 3 lights, 2 of which were pulsating. It was followed by a smaller, similar object. The RAF received 2 similar reports. A police spokesman said the reports would be treated seriously. At present we have not got a clue, but inquiries will be made, he commented. The next shot shows the locality, but yeah, there's the rowing clubs on the river just there. So they were travelling along this road. Okay, next shot please, mate.